From the iconic Rattlesnake Club on the Detroit riverfront, this is your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. I'm Jer Stays.
That's right. We're going highbrow on today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sven Gustafson. It's Wednesday, February 27th. We have a great show coming to you from the Rattlesnake dining room. First, we'll have your headlines. Then we'll have a conversation with the Rattlesnake's executive chef, Jeff Lanctot, and catering director, Michelle Taylor.
And as a little FYI, even though they affect none of our journalistic content, the Rattlesnake is joining Daily Detroit as one of our sponsors going forward, and we're excited to have them on board.
I'm also excited for this next course, Jer. I mean, we just took down an appetizer of Brussels sprouts, which was pretty killer, I got to say.
We've got more intel about the new Buddy's Pizza location planned in downtown Detroit. First of all, Buddy's is targeting a late summer opening in the Madison building across the street from Grand Circus Park. The 7,000 square foot space was formerly Angelina Italian Bistro. When Buddy's opens, it'll feature seating for 225 people, glass partition walls, and a summer patio facing the park. There will also be a separate area offering a limited service for quick bite or carry-out for busy workers on a lunch break or stadium or theater crowds. The new location will also offer catering and delivery.
Apparently, the biggest story last night around town, based on watching the social interwebs, wasn't the billions of dollars Fiat Chrysler is investing in Detroit or anything else for that matter. It's a Target up in Sterling Heights. It's closing this June. Shoppers in Macomb County are apparently heartbroken, and 137 jobs will mostly relocate to other surrounding Target stores. The Target that's closing is on Van Dyke, just north of 15 Mile Road. Sterling Heights has a second Target store on Metro Parkway, which will remain open.
Well, how big a deal was this? Well, the mayor of Sterling Heights actually issued a statement. Quote, "The city is disappointed in the Target closure, but has no doubt the space will quickly be redeveloped given the amount of construction activity currently taking place throughout the city, but especially in the area of 15 Mile and Van Dyke. I'm very relieved to hear the employees will be offered alternate employment with Target and no one will be left without a job. There's no word if a secondary Golden Corridor Ring monument will be installed at the location."
You know who else is disappointed in the Target closure, Jer? Me.
Aw.
The Campbell Soup Company says it has signed a deal to sell Ferndale-based Garden Fresh Gourmet, the maker of corn chips in those orange bags, refrigerated salsas, and other dips. Despite making an offer to reacquire the company they founded back in 1998, the Garden Fresh founders, Jack and Annette Aronson, were not the winning bidder. Instead, Campbell says it's selling to an affiliate of a packaged fresh food company called Fountain of Health USA, which is actually based in Quebec. Terms of the deal were not announced. The sale is expected to close in Campbell's fiscal third quarter, which ends in late April. Last August, Campbell announced it was planning to sell its fresh foods division, it's actually called Campbell Fresh, capital F, to reduce debt and strengthen its balance sheet. Campbell purchased Garden Fresh back in 2015 for $231 million. It's reportedly had a hard time expanding the brand beyond its core customer base in the Midwest. The Aronsons agreed to sell Garden Fresh to Campbell in 2015 because of promises it made to keep the business and its 450 employees in Ferndale. It's not clear what the new owners have planned for the brand, which also has an operation in Grand Rapids. The Aronsons have since launched a food and innovation center in Taylor and thrown their financial focus behind literacy programs in Detroit and Ferndale. In addition to Garden Fresh, Campbell Fresh division also includes Bolt House Farms, which makes bottled juices, smoothies, and salad dressings. Campbell's is also planning to sell that company by the end of 2019.
I'm going to call out right here that the Garlic Artichoke Foundation that the founder of Garden Fresh has put together is making a lot of impact around town. I just want to make sure to give it a name check because it's been doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the Aronsons definitely have done a great job giving back to the community from their business success. And we hope the best for Garden Fresh. I buy their chips right all the time.
Today marked the opening of an affordable housing apartment building in Detroit's North End neighborhood. The nonprofit Central City Integrated Health did the St. Rita Apartments project. It's an affordable housing development for veterans, the homeless, and individuals with special needs. The building is just off of Woodward on Owen Street, and I'll be honest, it's a beauty. Built in 1916, it has an ornate facade and had been sitting vacant since the 90s. The city says the $7.2 million project has 26 one-bedroom units. Each run 750 square feet. They also come a bit pre-furnished, with stainless steel kitchen appliances, refurbished hardwood floors, full-size beds, and dining room tables with chairs. If you want to get a place here, though, you're out of luck. There were hundreds of applications for the units, and they're already spoken for. To qualify, a potential resident would have needed to make 30% of the area median income, or no more than $14,000 a year.
Jer, we were looking at the pictures before, and although these are small, they were pretty nice looking units, and that's a really handsome building. You know,
I would totally live there,
like
no doubt.
Like a beautiful classic, a urban apartment building, multi-family apartment building, or multi-unit apartment building. That is, in a previous life, I'd have been happy to take a place in that building. Michigan-based supermarket chain Meyer says it's launching a new program to encourage people to safely dispose of unused or expired prescription drugs. Meyer's new consumer drug take-back program involves kiosks placed in the pharmacy area of all 241 supercenter locations in the Midwest. They're available and free to use during pharmacy hours. Customers can drop off any expired or unused medications, including opioid painkillers, controlled substances, or regular over-the-counter drugs. The program is touted as a way to safely dispose of potentially addictive prescription drugs and keep them out of the hands of friends or family members who might misuse them. And Jer, this is a great thing to hear. People need, easier ways to safely get rid of their medications. I just want to make my own pitch here, not to flush that stuff down the toilet, because we've seen lots of stories about how prescription drugs are showing up in our water supply all around the world, frankly. And I also want to just give another shout to Meyer, at least to the 8 Mile and Woodward location, which is near me. I don't know that that's technically a supercenter. I don't think they have a pharmacy there, but what they do have is they offer a bin where you can recycle your plastic bags, which everybody's, if you keep them, everyone's got a million. The world's got too many plastic bags. And I'm on this real rant lately because I read a story about how terrible plastic is for the planet, and that's it.
If you have, in all seriousness, I would love to do an episode around recycling and the best ways to do things.
Yeah, I'm as serious as a heart attack about plastic. It's terrible. We need to stop making plastic.
Well, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Let's set it up if you want to come on and talk about it.
All right, now sliding into the chair to my left is Michelle Taylor. She's the director of catering here at the Rattlesnake. Michelle, good to see you again.
Hello, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's been a couple of years, but you and I have definitely worked some private events together in the past here.
Yes, nice to see a familiar face on the other side of the microphone.
Absolutely. So a lot of people probably don't realize, but this is a pretty popular place for catering events.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people don't even realize how much space there is within the restaurant vicinity that we can do catering in. For a lot of people who don't know, we have 5 different private dining rooms as well as a large atrium space in the center of the building. So I get everything from rehearsal dinners to bridal showers to corporate events, the good old-fashioned wedding, ceremony, reception, all of that is on my daily schedule.
Yeah. And the busy season for especially the weddings is kind of yet to hit, right? That kind of starts
absolutely.
When the weather
Summer
gets...
and fall is still the staple wedding season. So absolutely.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the location of this place, because we're a little bit outside of downtown Detroit, but we're still super close to the Central Business District. But there's so many cool things happening along this Jos Campos strip.
Absolutely.
Right across the way from here, if you were to do something, you've got Andrew's, which is epic place. I've had quite a few.
One of
drinks
Detroit's
over there.
finest hole-in-the-wall bars. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got Atwater. So it's one of those things of, it's not really by itself. There's a lot of things happening around here.
Right. And don't forget the riverfront. We're right on the riverfront. The river walk passes right in front of you guys.
The riverfront definitely is, you either know the Rattlesnake for one of two things, the food or being on the river. And that's a staple in both sides, the restaurant side and the catering side. People know the area. Rivertown, we're not, right next to the Renaissance event center, but we have our own little niche area here. Andrews is a great spot right across from us. Lots of weddings have stumbled their way across the street into their bar until 2 a.m.
And employees and contract employees.
Yes, absolutely. We've known to have a few parties across the street as well, which we're lucky enough that they still let us in the doors. So
Well, and that's one of the reasons I like this venue. I like being here. We've done a couple of things around here, different stories, Jefferson East, things like that. And what I like about this street is that it's actually kind of a complete street. You can come here and actually have an evening and go from one end to the other and actually have a good time all the way through, and you don't have to get in your car again.
the city has changed so much, and so many people come to the downtown area. And when you have events, you're parking in a garage, you're valeting. We do have a really great setup here where the parking is right across from us. You're walking across the street into the restaurant. It's a big sell for corporate and social style events because parking is right there. You walk across the street to the ceremony location. Then you come across the street again for a patio, for a wine tasting, or for a summer cocktail hour. And then again, you're walking right inside for your event or dinner reservation. So we're much different than a lot of the places. You don't have to valet. You could park your own car and walk right in. And we have our own little, like I said, niche area here in the city.
Right. We were also talking before, and you just mentioned wine. Rattlesnake has a pretty killer wine list.
We do. So maybe that's the third thing. If you don't come to us for the riverfront view, or it's a combination of, we do have a pretty extensive wine list. Maria, our general manager and sommelier, has done a fantastic job at offering a variety of Napa Valley, American wines, European wines. Being Hungarian, of course, she has a lot of European, French favorites as well. But we're super excited to always have that as another element in the restaurant where, whether you want a cocktail, craft cocktails are super big too. But if you want a good old classic, big, bold red, you certainly have a wide range to choose from here.
I don't know if we can go down this rabbit hole a little bit, but I'd like to talk about
Let's
craft
do it.
cocktails. I do love them.
Let's do it.
I'm a gin guy.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we go? What do we do with that?
I've had great experiences with people pulling gin into cocktails. I've never been a big gin person, but you find yourself in these craft cocktail worlds where you like things you didn't even realize you had a taste for. And gin is so dynamic to me. If a few people I know would actually drink it straight, and I can't get over the pine tree strong taste that you get. But when you put it in cocktails with house-made bitters or vermouth, that was a change that I would never have put the two together. And when I had, it wasn't unfortunately here, but our bartenders do a great job too of combining things with gin, vodka, rum. Of course, it's another great part of the city. There's a lot of city distilleries that we've had a pleasure of working with to come up with some of these great craft cocktails too. So it's another way of pulling in that local aspect. You're just helping self-promote other people in the city.
For sure. I mean, and gin can work as such a great canvas for cocktails, much like vodka can.
Absolutely.
And there are so many good ones here. And vodka and distillers, you've got Detroit City Distillery, you've got Two James. It just keeps rolling and rolling.
Last summer, we were fortunate enough to have Detroit City Distillery come in, and I think they did 3. Their gin, vodka, and one of their whiskeys. And again, it's a whole nother part of the world where we're making dinners that aren't necessarily wine tastings. It was on the patio, you had the riverfront view, and instead of a wine-focused dinner, it was a cocktail-focused dinner. So we are fortunate to have them come in and talk a little bit about their products, and Executive Chef Jeff puts a nice menu together, and you got to enjoy the riverfront and have some craft cocktails and some yummy food.
Sounds great. Michelle Taylor is Director of Catering with the Rattlesnake. Michelle, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for stopping by, and we hope to see you again soon.
We are joined in the PD1 here at the Rattlesnake Club by Executive Chef Jeff Lanctot. Jeff, welcome to Daily Detroit.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, good to see you again, man. It's been a long time. I should mention to our listeners that I have previously, in a different era, worked here at the Rattlesnake, so it's a little bit of a homecoming to me.
I've also worked here in a different era. That's why Sven and I know each other. I've been here quite a long time.
How long have you been here now, Jeff?
It's either this will be my 16th or 17th year here at the Rattlesnake. I'd have to either 2003 or 2004. I really don't quite remember. It was a long time ago.
Right, and you've worked your way up the ranks.
Certainly.
How long have you been executive chef now?
2 years now, about 2 years, maybe 2.5.
All right, cool. So we're catching you right in the middle of Detroit Restaurant Week. Rattlesnake is one of the participating venues. Tell us a little bit about kind of what you guys have on tap. You guys are pretty regular participators in Restaurant
were
Week.
one of the original participants in the first Restaurant Week, and I was on Purton's People, if you guys remember Dick Purton.
I was just interviewing Dick last week.
Awesome.
For the Salvation Army Radiothon.
Awesome. And that was actually one of my first radio experiences, was promoting Restaurant Week, and we can all remember how long ago that was.
So you're an old pro at this whole broadcast, radio podcast thing, right?
I've been out there a bit. I have.
You've got a face for radio, though.
You got that right, brother. Yeah, I've been on 2, 4, and 7 a bunch of times. Okay.
All right.
But it's a fantastic thing that they do. It gets a great response, and it is certainly a pleasure to, just kind of put ourselves out there to maybe folks who, don't regularly dine at the Rattlesnake.
For sure. And the Rattlesnake is, frankly, a Detroit dining institution, no doubt. What are some of the things you found that are key to success here for you? Because you've had a long time here, and, so many times in like the Star Chef world or whatever around Detroit, it's like some people are there a year, maybe 2 years, and they're gone. But you've really made this your home.
There's no doubt. I mean, in dog years, we would have been dead a long time ago.
I mean, you guys started, I think Rattlesnake opened in
1988.
88. Okay.
Which,
that's eternity in restaurant years. Yeah.
I will say, answering your question, that it is certainly it starts with a culture. And, I'm a sports guy, and we all know that there's definitely flashes in the pan, and there's definitely, businesses and teams that win year in and year out, and it's about a culture. It's synergy with management and the front of the house to the back of the house, and frankly, many of the things that are vogue in today's dining, we've been doing since day one at the Rattlesnake, as far as sourcing local, just a lot of out of the box type cuisine, a lot of out of the box type technique, and frankly, even out of the box type service and things like that. We were doing like live smoke in bags, and when I first started here, I mean, that really didn't get cool till years later. And a lot of the locally grown stuff, sustainability, all that stuff we've been doing since day one, since I've worked here. That's nothing new here at the Rattlesnake. So to answer your question, the longevity, I feel, of this establishment has certainly been, number one, being on the cutting edge. Number two, intimately understanding what our guests want. And, there's a small bit of changing with the times, I would say, just as far as people's eating habits, less portion size. We have a lot of vegetarians, a lot of vegans. That's, fine tuning that kind of thing. But I think just good practice.
How would you describe, to somebody who's not familiar with Rattlesnake, your menu, the style of food that you serve here?
I would say that it's a blend of many things. To be frank, I would not label it. I know what I'm doing, Sven. So I'm familiar with a lot of different cuisines, and I have the ability and the freedom to not, pigeonhole. It's not French. It's, it's not any one particular thing, because I feel like, if you're in a very small market, you can get away with pigeonholing yourself. If you're in a large market like this, in a very diverse city like Detroit, I want to appeal to people with a diverse palate. And certainly our regular guests have no problem with trying different things.
Let me come at that in a little bit of a different way. What are some of your favorites that you love?
I love slow food. My mother was raised in the South, so, I'm catfish and, braised tongue and, hillbilly stuff, for a lack of better words. That, and at any rate, I mean, I cook at home on Sundays and Mondays for the wife and the kids or whatever. And I like slow food. So braised, slow products. Oxtails were on sale last weekend, so we had oxtails and egg noodles, which is one of my favorite things in life.
Oh, wow.
I got to say, if people haven't been adventurous and try a few different things like oxtails, and it's awesome.
It's awesome. The problem is, though, and I don't mean to cut you off, but the problem is so many of these used to be throwaway cuts are expensive. Did you catch the part where I said oxtails were on sale for once? Because, I can literally feed my family steaks for what it cost me to feed my family oxtails, which is insane. I mean, that's crazy.
That is crazy. So you ran those as a special. Do you find that, is there an audience, a market for oxtail here?
Certainly. I've done them as accompaniments to other things. So I've done, like a pulled oxtail meat ravioli with like boars and cheese, and that was accompanied with, I think, a lobster tail or something. But certainly, I mean, you're going to get diners that don't fine dine frequently. I mean, it's the city. That's that's what's going to happen. And there, I feel like we have a large variety of plain Jane, for lack of a better word, items that, appeal to someone who would be intimidated by oxtail or.
Well, accessibility is an important thing with a menu, right? Because you've got people who are into it's kind of like listening to music. You've got people who are into the deep cuts or the oxtail cuts. And then you've got folks that want to kind of do an on-ramp. And one of the things I appreciated about this Restaurant Week menu, and I know that you do a lot of different events like this, but you present a lot of things that you can get into a different thing, right? So you could start with, if you're familiar with prime rib, you can get into that. Everyone knows prime rib. But if you want to spread your wings a little bit, you've got foie gras steak. So and that's
Certainly.
a lot of variety for a Restaurant Week menu, for a special menu.
It is. My focus during these restaurant weeks, first and foremost, is to give you a sampling of what the Rattlesnake is really like. Oftentimes I read other menus that do this, and I'm not picking on local people for sure. And frankly, I read some of the menus for this particular restaurant week, and I thought they were excellent. But I wouldn't do it if I couldn't give somebody a sampling of what exactly we do here. And that's nuts and bolts. That's, the cuisine, the service, you need to have a Rattlesnake experience when you come through these doors, whether you're spending $1 or $100. It doesn't matter to me. It's my job is hospitality. So that's not relevant.
Yeah. And I know you guys follow a seasonal menu. I think you're in the winter months. So
Certainly.
What kind of things can people find on the menu this time of year?
Winter, frankly, is one of my favorites because
you like slow food and
well that too, because number one, there's less options. So I'm not like going crazy like I do in the spring because there's a gazillion different things that you can do. It certainly helps narrow the focus, frankly. And there is just a lot of, because I like slow food, there's a lot of, root vegetables and things that I really enjoy personally that I enjoy showcasing for our guests. And I'm a pomegranate freak just personally. So whatever. I get excited about that.
I've seen a few different recipes now that are now on the Food Network or all that other stuff. And pomegranate is a thing again. I feel like everything comes in cycles if you've been around this long enough.
Certainly. If you've been doing this long enough, it's like fashion. I promise you. I laugh all the time that, like I said, I've been here for so long and been doing this for so long that, the things that were cool 20 years ago are, it's just
like oxtails or other like offal,
certainly like goat.
Yeah.
Okay. Goat was something that, poor people ate in their backyards and now it's like a thing. It's,
I read somewhere, I don't know if this is true, but that it's actually the most commonly eaten red meat outside of the United States.
That's very true.
Across the world.
I just talked to a friend of mine who lives in San Diego, and there is literally and it's not a huge chain, but it's a small chain of Spanish restaurants, Mexican restaurants that specialize, and they pretty much do nothing except different preparations of goat. And they, have this cool thing where they don't bury it, but it's in like a outside kind of cookery or whatever. And once again, nobody thought of eating goat. It's kind of coming back around, but to bring things full circle, for a good portion of time, there was such a narrowness in the products that we considered what was fine dining. You had to have a filet, or you had to have, carry certain mondally expensive products. And I think that with the adaptation of people's taste changing and willingness to try different things, and ethnic cuisine becoming a huge part of the landscape, you got into these cooler products, in different cuts and things like that.
When they come down, what is the one thing that everybody should try when they come down? I guess we'll finish there.
I have my personal favorites, and by all means, when you come here, ask for me, Chef Jeff. You can't forget it. And my first question to everybody is, are we walking or are we swimming? And we'll go from there.
That'll do it for today's show. Thanks to the Rattlesnake for having us and becoming one of our sponsors for the show going forward. And thanks to you, of course, for listening. I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Sven Gustafson, and thanks for these beautiful dinners that we're about to tear into right now.
Yeah, this is going to be great. Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.